Audio and video system that we have on board today. We have a camera person riding along with us, and he'll bring us live shots of sites on both sides of the boat as we travel downstream. So you can feel free to keep an eye on those monitors or get up and move around if you'd like. Now the Coast Guard likes us to do a quick safety demonstration before we depart. So Jaden's going to show us how to use the life jackets that we have located.
Oh no, we're sinking! It's over. Just put your life vest on, walk to shore. You're not even going to if you're over 39 inches tall, we might have to do most of this by themselves, I might add, with Jim at the helm and Mary doing the narration. After they made everybody's coffee and donuts, of course. But even though today's southwest of California, like you always see on a map, in a box, right next to the line, provided all their water, 6,000 gallons a minute, taken out of the Chena and sent through a water pipe up over the hills. Now this doesn't pump water anymore, it pumps very much beer. But that changed a lot when airplanes started to show up, and while I see some of you got distracted by the big house over to the left, that belongs to my ex-wife, and I don't want to talk about it. Right side, look over to the right here. And you'll see the plane will squat back a little bit as it gets started, but then eventually as it gets on step, it's just going to be drawing a few inches of water. Not just a job. In fact, one of my favorite stories out of the 1950s was the guy who would fly around over a big hilltop that had a family living on it. Two little girls who loved ice cream. And it would have taken them hours to get all the way off the hill down into the valley. And the pilot knew that, so every time he'd fly the route, he would take ice cream in the plane, and then when he got over to Homestead, drop it out the window with a big red ribbon attached. So they could watch it just stream right down and pick it up. Isn't that adorable? And that other pilot responsible for bringing the dentist to the village didn't see a whole lot of glee out of the children. We all have our jobs to do. Our plane is slipping around behind us. Those slip turns are important if you're going to fly out in the bush, because if you want to land on a tiny lake surrounded by tall trees, you can't always make a nice gradual descent. Sometimes you've got to just corkscrew it right down. And again, windy day, so I'm sure there's a little extra caution. But not today. Didn't one hopper or anything. Very nicely done. That's how 88 Zulu takes a lap around the moon. One out of every 80 Alaskans is a licensed pilot, by the way, including many members of the Bingley family. And since this pilot is a friend of ours, let's give him a call on the radio. We'll kind of get some first-hand observations on what this weather is like.
88 Zulu Discovery 3, how do you read? All right, well, we can hear you on our end. And I'm wondering, just how much fun is it to be flying today? All right, well, another good lap. And let's start by meeting you here quick before we talk about the voices, because you've been in a lot of them the last year. So, tell us some about your background.
One of my favorite little golden years spots, because I mean you can build a big house if you want, or go small on the cabin and save capital for toys, like private plane, private dock, private umbrella, and a postcard perfect little cabin with moose. Although this light brown home to the right with a red umbrella, that one's kind of special. Because that's where Ronald and Nancy Reagan lived in 1984. Frank Murkowski, because they were refueling Air Force One on their way back from China, May of 1984, on a day about like this, just a little bit colder. And Pope John Paul II, it turned out, was refueling on the way back from Korea. So they got together at the airport, and the news people called it the summit at the top of the world. And there were 10,000 of us out there to watch. But I had a good seat because my marching band got picked to play when they took the stage. I had a trombone frozen in my lips for 2 hours. It was worth it because our pictures were great. Over to the left, a couple examples of modern log construction. This one with a green roof has 1.5 miles of white spruce, great big windows so nobody gets cabin fever. And then the late Jack McManus's place right next door in Wisconsin, actually. It was a real character. Yeah. American by birth, Alaskan by choice. And one of our used to call him the Flying Dutchman. But his brother lives right downstream and was not interested in a log home. So even within the families, everybody does their own thing. Frame construction, nice big multi-pane windows again, hot tub right on the deck for summer. If it's 40 below, you send that out to if you have any furnace trouble in the winter. Back in the 30s and 40s, though, when Jim Binkley was running freight, you didn't see houses out here. It was the trees. A little farther up the bank, the gray and white Pelican. It's a missionary boat that used to run out of here. It's not a busy spot today, but there was a time, of course, when this was a real hub. I mean, Fairbanks has always been a transportation hub, and so it was a critical starting point for a trip that served towns and villages all along the Yukon and Tanana rivers. And actually, we can show you some film of that. Railroads would bring freight into Fairbanks. Trucks would haul all the goods to the boatyard. 1,200 miles back, 10 times a summer, they could fit that 1,000-ton stern-wheeler Yukon.
Parts from that vessel, and lucky for us, my grandfather was a part of that salvage crew, and he was able to bring home this beautiful wheel. He hung it up on the wall in his shop for the next several decades until 1980. The wheel has become kind of a family heirloom for us. It's an item, another item that was in my grandpa's.
You just saw hugging his daughter in our video. A veteran of the Iditarod and the winner of the 1988 Yukon Quest, Susan Butcher's husband, Dave Monson, over on shore.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Trailbreaker Kennel, and it's wonderful to be able to greet you today. I think we're one of the luckiest kennels in the state that we can live along such a beautiful waterway that in the wintertime, what it does, it freezes, so we are able to put in trails to run dogs on. They can actually go 1,000 miles from here all the winter long and never cross a road, never run into a fence. But in the summer, it's fabulous too, because that's where we get to play with puppies, and anytime you do that, it's always a great day.
Yep. Well, they seem to be enjoying themselves as usual. All about that today. And then, about a century and a half ago, people from other parts of the world started wandering up here, and some of the natives decided to settle in more permanent villages, like this one you see to the right. And you'll get to explore what we like to think of as a living museum. It's an area we get to preserve, just like this. Much like the villages in Alaska Native culture. A time of good hunting means meat for food, hides for clothing and shelter, gut, bone, sinew, antlers, all of it. Whatever you don't eat, you make something out of. Now, what you see in the pen over here is, of course, domesticated Rangifer durandus. That's the same genus and species as the indigenous wild caribou. These are reindeer, but in all the ways that match the snow and get to the moss and lichen underneath. That's where their name comes from, by the way. Caribou is actually a Mi'kmaq word. It means deer who paws the ground. And female grow antlers too. The only time of year where that happens normally. And all sexes will drop them later in the year. They're not permanent like horns. You can see how the three of them to the left actually are still all in velvet. meaning that furry layer of skin that protects the blood supply is intact. They haven't got the urge to scrape it off. The other two, though, over to the right, are sensing the rutting season, so they have scraped precipitation the way you usually think of it, because we actually only get about 12 inches in the average year, rain and snow combined. That's all that falls out of the sky. What makes our rivers have the volume they do is actually our hot sunny days when all the snow in the Alaska range melts and runs out into the river system. Now fortunately the Chena doesn't flood. It did in 1967, which was a mess, but after that the Army Corps of Engineers built the flood control project. So now if the Chena gets too high, that it looks like it's going to be a threat, they'll order this great big gate to shut, which will divert the Chena still into the Tanana, but a different spot, about 35 river miles upstream. So that high water can't get down this far and pose a threat. But there's no